Hey, welcome to part 2 of the Delta jointer restoration. Here we go. Okay, hopefully I got you in close enough and you can see what's going on here. This is what I have, and this is how you put this guy in who ends up getting bolted here. Alright, so I'm putting this threaded rod in through the hole, and I can see it there, and then I can thread it on to here. It's really important that this thread is not, that you can turn it like this without that happening. That it's just a little bit tight so you have control over it. Use heavy grease, use whatever you have to use to get it. If it just spins, this next part isn't going to go well for you. Okay? So now he is past, that thing that I screwed down in there is past the little casting wall in there, and I'm looking down through these holes right here, and I can see those bolt holes on that piece if I get my flashlight going. Okay. Alright, and this is why it's important that piece does not spin freely, because you have to rotate it to get it lined up in there so that you can get the bolts in there. There we go. I can see those threaded holes nicely right now. I'm holding this piece down and holding it up against there. Now there's 2 bolts that go in here, and I'm holding it right over here until I get these threaded. Let's get these started. There's one that started. 2 that started almost. There we go. There we go. I'm not going to torque these down very tight. I am just going to thread them on. Okay. So now we have those 2 guys in there. Why didn't I torque those down? So now we're going to put these bushings in here, and these bushings have a detent in them that I have to line up there. The way these things are is there's a washer. Then there's the bushing, and I line that bushing up with the hole for the set screw. Okay, and in order to line up this hole, I'm going to have to put this handle on, tighten up the set screw so I can turn that bolt. Okay, so I'm going to turn this bolt, and as you can see, as I do that, this guy gets pulled in. I'm going to turn him around to line up that divot, and even for a little more security, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark on that bushing where that divot is in case he rotates a little bit while I'm pulling him in there. Doesn't look like he is, but oh, yeah, he did a little bit. Okay. There. Okay. So now I'm going to put the set screw in the side. Okay. And that will lock that bushing in there at the right spot. There we go. Yeah, table up, table down. I can tighten these guys down now. Okay, rinse and repeat for the other side. Let's get them round for you here. Okay, so I have to, as I told you, I have to turn this guy with the handle. Get the handle on there. Oh, wait a minute. Let's get all our stuff on there. We have washer, bushing, washer, handle. There we go. Now we just make sure everything's lined up. And it will be. There we go. Tighten her down. I'm lining up that bushing. It does not appear to be spinning as of yet. Okay, spun on me a little bit. There we go. Okay, and then tighten up the set screw on the side here. Set screws tight on the bushing. These guys are torqued down. Now, as long as I got it upside down here, let's put the cutter head in. Being very careful not to get cut, I'm putting the long along the part that the pulley goes on, out the same side as these handles, right? Out the back side. All right. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to slide these two bolts in. And I'm going to, let's see, let's put it, you know what, I'm going to have to turn it around here. It's a little different when you're doing it and you have to keep track of where the camera is so people can see stuff. All right. Oh, she goes. Okay. I'm going to very gently tap the caps onto the bearings. You'll note the cap with the cover on it goes on the outside, and the cap with the hole in it obviously goes on this other side here so that the shaft can get out. So I'm just going to tap these guys down. Okay, how do you know when you're done? Well, I'm going to get them about flush, maybe a little less than flush, because it's easier to pound them back on than it is to take them back out. Okay, so let's put this guy on. Okay, so here they are all ground, both the fence and the infeed and outfeed tables of the jointer. This one was pretty good. It's got just a little bit of pitting right here, but you can barely feel it running your finger across there. You know, like I said, you talk to 20 different guys, you get 20 different opinions about what's the best way to grind your table. I like this way. I can see what it's doing. It doesn't make a mess, and I think they turned out great. Almost immediately afterwards, I will put paste wax on here. I use Minwax because it's what I got. You know, I don't think Johnson paste wax or anything else is any different, but it's just go in a circular motion in every part that you ground because it's open to the elements now, and it will re-rust very quickly. Go ahead and give it a coat of paste wax in a circular fashion. Everything covered. You'll notice it picks up all that probably microscopic grit from when it was sanded, just like you get sawdust or sanding dust from sanding wood. Same thing happens when you sand steel. Okay, and that can sit on the table also. And I'll just go over all this really nice. And then I will move over to the fence and get this. Just work it in. You don't. It's not like a car. I mean, just work it in a couple minutes, like you saw me. Wait a couple minutes. Wait 10 minutes, You'll see it turn to a haze and kind of dry to a haze. Then take a clean, soft towel, microfiber, whatever. I got flannel. I think they're from bed sheets or something. And buff it out. Wood will glide across it. It'll protect it from rust. It's a really good finish that I like. So we'll get back after that. Okay, the first thing we should do is put in the stop. And the stop, let's see if I can show you here, it's round on this side and square on this side. Make sure you put the round side in so that it can rotate this way. It doesn't need to rotate the other way. Just, that'll help you out. You can get it in backwards, I guess is what I'm telling you. And this is just a pin that we'll pound in here. Let's find a hole, get her lined up. So see, it can rotate this way for the stop, and then it only rotates out of the way. If you get that in there backwards, that won't happen. All right, now there's just all these little itty bitty set screws that lock those pins in. Okay, so now we'll just put in these set screws, and these are the slotted screws, not the Allen key screws. And these go to lock these little adjuster screws. Micro fine adjusters on thread so you can really tune into your angle, getting your angle just right on the fence. So you can screw these guys in here a little in and out, and then once you get them set just perfectly, you can lock them down with these set screws. And these set screws on these guys here have the standard screwdriver tip on them. They're not Allen key screws. Let's get this guy started here. Okay. You can set that up later with an angle gauge. All right, there's the pointer. You know what, now might be a good time for the big reveal on this guy. I'm just going to take off the masking tape here from when we painted it. And I'll probably go over that with a little carnauba wax too, because it also cleans a little bit. And then we'll get this pointer in this hole here. We don't know where it is just yet, but we'll put them in there and we'll use this. This guy is the Allen keyed set screw that we'll key him in with. All right. Then what we'll do is we will put in the cutter head. I like doing all that other stuff first. And make sure that when you put this cutter head in, these flat sides go up on the table, and the long end, the end that gets the pulley, has to come out the same end as these guys are. So I have the tables out of the way so I can put this in. Let's do this. Let's roll them up on the side, and hopefully I can get you to see when I put those screws in, or those bolts, at least the one on this side. Okay, so right up through here, and these have a very fine thread on them. You really get a lot of holding power with that really fine thread. I'm just going to start this guy, not even going to snug them down. Then I'm going to go down here. This is going to be hard to do, but see if I can do it. Put this guy in. Let's see if I can catch a thread. Oh, I caught a thread. It's unbelievable. Okay, get those guys down. 9/16, as I recall. 9/16. And these guys you want to get fairly tight, all right? They're holding your high-speed rotating cutter head in. So you want to get these guys nice and tight. That should do it. Almost there. As long, you know what? Let's put this back up. Let's see if I can get you to see one of these. Okay, let's do the reveal on these guys. Just take off this tape. Easier said than done. This is painter's tape. It should come right off, right? If I had any fingernails left. Okay. Still fighting me. How many layers did you have to put on this? I don't know however many it took. There we go. Nice. Very nice. He goes on here. Let's tighten that set screw down. Lock this guy on. Pretty tight here too. Okay, we'll do the same thing to this other one here. Again with the tape, what is that? Paint is like glue, it does not want to let go. There we go. Also looks very nice. Let's double check this guy just to make sure he's nice and tight. Nice and tight. Let's move on to the end. Okay, now we'll work to the end. Just slide that guy in there. Then get this guy here. He's going to come through for that. And I personally like to get a little bit of grease right here and right here where he slides. Grease is going to attract sawdust and it'll get all munged up. Yeah, that has not been my experience. Okay, so we put him in here. We slide him through. We seat this guy back in there. There we go. There, he's locked in there. Okay, and then we slide this guy over. Long end goes in. There we go. And then we put the nut on there. Let me hold this with my finger while I screw that nut on there. And this, you'll see when we get into the operation of this thing, but this thing we can screw that, and we can tighten that nut down, and we can loosen that nut up with the one side, and we can do the same thing with this on the other side. But for right now, we'll just leave it like it is. There, and make sure that see, we'll loosen this up, and then we can slide them, and we'll lock them back down. Lock them with that guy too, and get him out of the way. All right, so there's the fence. Let's loosen this guy up a little bit. Move this fence out to about here. tighten it back down just so we can see everything. All right. I'm going to move this table up a little bit just for safety to conceal more of that cutter head. Same thing on this side. I'm going to move them up. I got to lift it up in order to do that because it bottoms out here, but just put a little piece of wood underneath there. That'll keep me from doing that. And then we'll crank that table up. There we go. Okay, basically the last thing is the guard. As you recall, we took this cotter pin out. We're going to put this cotter pin back in. And we're going to bend these over just a little bit for right now. You can see that other cotter pin is still right here. This can get a little tricky. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Okay? So we hook this end on here, and then I have always used a needle nose pliers to grab this end, and there we go. That spring turned out nice. I actually polished that, not just wire wheeled it. There you go. Only thing left to do is paint the base that I have for this, attach this to the base, and do the motor and the belt, and then I'll go through probably a couple videos on setup. One on adjusting your table and one on putting the knives in the cutter head and getting those adjusted. For right now, to leave this one, let's do this. Let's tilt this guy back. And let's do the reveal of the Delta. Again, I wish I had fingernails. It would make this a lot easier. There we go. Still kind of a nice patina on there. Additionally, we have this one over here. That one I could probably clean up with a little polish too. But they look good. Came out well. Okay. I got her blasted with the power washer. I got her lightly sanded. I got her dried. I got one coat of primer on there. And now I am putting on a coat of color. So, things get... Yeah, a little bit more in there. That ought to do it. I won't bring you in here for the second coat. It's like watching paint applied and watching paint dry, same thing. So we'll bring you back for the assembly. I'll wire wheel all of the hardware that goes with it. That stuff was pretty rusty. I didn't show you that, but that was pretty bad. But we'll get back to it. Okay, so while the paint is drying on that, let's go hit the wire wheel just a little bit. You might be getting sick of watching me do this, but such is the life of a restorer. I know I've also said this 100 times before, but it does bear repeating. Big heavy canvas apron, full face shield, heavy gloves. When I'm doing this, I get a tink every once in a while of a piece of this thing bouncing off my face shield, and I also, I can feel it hitting my gloves, and upon occasion I'll find a little piece of that wire stuck in this apron. So personal protection stuff is very important here. All right, let's go. One other thing tip I can give you is it's easier to wire wheel nuts if you put them on the bolt. It gives you something to hang on to. Now these guys are going to want to spin, but you'll see me put my finger against it. There you go. They're all cleaned up. Let's go and do some assembly. Okay, first step is to just put a little drop of oil in here. Each one, lube up. Here we go. And how this works is like this. This square nut goes in here. Goes into this slot right here. And this guy goes up, threads through him, and then will clamp on the part that goes apart. So you put this nut in here, and then you screw this guy into it. And then when you screw it down, the cross member is in here, and it will clamp down on it. So I'll get all those set up. All right, I have all of these guys done, painted, assembled. Nothing left to do but the assembly of this guy. So what we do is we just slide these guys on, tighten up these thumb screws. I'm gonna leave them a little loose right now. I gotta make some measurements to get the width right when I get the jointer on here. So I'll just put these guys on lightly. And then I'm gonna put this guy on. Jeez. They don't make them like they used to. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to get the jointer centered on the stand, and I got to move these guys. Remember, I left them loose so that they line up here, so that these holes line up with the slots in the cross beam is, I guess, what I'm going to call it. Okay, so I'm just lifting this end. I'll move it down there. These guys are lined up. It's parallel. I'm looking just to make sure. I do it by eyeball, okay? Is this centered on here? I could break out a tape and I could measure it. Is it straight on here? I could do all that, but I just do it by eyeball. And I gotta move this guy. Got a little too tight. Move this guy underneath there. Then nothing left to do but put the bolts through to mount them. I always put a washer on these. Okay, I did want to get you down here for this side. If you look here, because it's only got one bolt on this side, they're not out here where you can get at them. They're right underneath the adjuster. So you can't get a bolt in this way. You can't get it in there, see? So you gotta come up from the bottom on this side. The other two sides, that irritates my ADHD a little bit, that the two on the other side are from the top down and this one's from the bottom up, but that's the way that you have to do it. That's a bad design, Delta. One other just little tidbit that I have for you here. When you're going up here, since these have kind of a big slot that goes in there, here's what I like to do. I get the thick washers. These guys are thicker than normal washers, and I got two of them. I got a 3/8 and a 5/16. This is a 5/16. This is a 3/8. It's got bigger holes, bigger everything here. So I put these guys on. Two of them, I stack them so that they will clamp real nice, and they won't get pulled through that through this slot, because the slot's pretty wide. I don't care if you put 500 foot-pounds on there, you're not pulling them through because there's 2 of them on there. So just another little trick for you. So this is the kind of stuff that clogs my days. Someone had been in here and had screwed up the threads, and there was just nothing left. You can kind of see it. I cleaned it up as much as I could. I believe originally it may have been a 1/4 by 20 thread. Those were all gone. I had to drill it out with an F-size drill bit. It's about 1/4 inch. It's a little bit bigger. And then I tapped it 5/16 by 18. Of course, I didn't have a 5/16 by 18 set screw, so I had to make one, which you see here. This is just the end of a bolt that I slotted with a hacksaw, a hand hacksaw. You could use a Dremel tool or a cutoff wheel or whatever, and then cut it down to size so that it will fit in here, thusly. Let's see if I can make sure that you can see this. Okay. And, obviously I prefer these to have a hex head, because you can really torque them down pretty good as opposed to just a slotted head like this. So I'm going to put the blue Loctite on there when I assemble it, which I'll do right now. Okay, here's the shaft. We'll put the key in there. And then you can see I got the blue Loctite on there. I like to put the lock on the inside, towards the machine. Nice tight fit. I might even have to do a little plastic hammering on that. I'm right-handed, so I need this side. Oh, nice fit. And that way I can get this guy just about flush here. This guy's actually a little long, so he's going to be just about, that'll give you maximum contact. And then we'll tighten that guy down. My homemade set screw. And it tightens against that key, and I got her nice and tight. So now what we'll do is we'll mount the motor down below, and since these are adjustable, we can use a belt that we have, because we can make a belt that's about the right size fit by where we put the motor. If I was super anal retentive, which I am, but not in this case, I would want that belt going straight up and down. But mechanically, it doesn't care. It goes around half the pulley no matter where you put that motor. So if we put the motor on this side, it's towards the wheel, so you got more weight on the wheel side, and that makes lifting it easier to move it around. So maybe we'll do that. I'll look through what I have motor-wise and belt-wise, and we'll make that determination. Okay, so a couple of things about putting the motor on. I can put the motor on here, right, and it's relatively centered. But because this is a Delta motor and it spins at 1725, it's got to have this very large 7-inch pulley or sheave to spin the cutter head at the proper speed. Okay, so look, the pulley bottoms out here. It rubs. So we can't do that. So what we have to do is we have to make a spacer block, which I will paint gray, and you probably won't notice it very much, to put in there. And that gets this pulley clearance here, okay? But now, brand new belt, by the way, now if we put this guy on, look how loose he is because of that spacer block. So what do? We do what we said before, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the motor this way, and that's actually a good thing because it has the wheels down here, so I'll have additional leverage when I want to move it around, because the motor and the weight will be on this side. So if we move this guy to, let's say, here, the belt gets tensioned properly. Okay, up here, belt gets tensioned properly, and we're down on this end. I have about maybe an inch clearance right up here between the belt and this cross support. I got about an inch clearance, so I'm still good there. So that's what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna mount that guy there. And that'll take care of all of my issues. Okay, let's talk all things motor and electrical. So I did as I said. I have a brand new belt, and I positioned this motor this way, a little bit of center, so I'd have proper tension on the belt. Okay, I then tightened down all these guys here so that those wouldn't move. You can see I got enough space here, enough space here. I'm not hitting this cross member up here. If you get it too far over to that side, that could happen. I eyeballed it from above to see that the belt is straight this way, not going that way or that way. Okay, and I also eyeballed it so that the motor is straight this way, not going that way or that way. Also, you can see where I wired it up. I like to use 12 gauge wire. I don't care if this is only a 1/2 horsepower motor, I'm using 12 gauge wire. I'm 12 gauge 3 conductor wire. I ground it not only here, but I also ground it at the motor. I know you're saying, well, it's all steel, it should be grounded. Yeah, it should be. Okay? So it's grounded all the way through there. I always use a metal box. No plastic. Okay, this isn't China, is it? I'm pretty sure, no. No, it's not China. So we use metal, okay? And we use the commercial 20 amp switch. Again, you're saying, hey, it's a 1/2 horsepower motor. There's no way that thing's drawing 20 amps. It's not, but those 20 amp switches are industrial switches, and they always have the ground in them too. So that's what I always use. Additionally, one more thing you don't have to do, but what I do is, when I mount these, this is a 1/2 by 20 screw, I drill and tap that hole. There's a hole right over here. I'm going to do another one right here. I just got to mark it and do it, but I'll use 2. That way you don't got a nut on the outside, less chance of snagging it and anything else. 80 years from now, when the guy does the next rebuild on this, he'll thank you for that because he doesn't have to go chasing that nut inside. Additionally, look where I have the switch mounted. It's inside here. It's not sticking out this way where I could hit it accidentally if I'm walking past or if I'm working over here. So it's kind of protected. All right. You know, down is off, up is on. All that should go without say. But spend the extra $5 on electrical, guys, and do it safely and do it right. One more little note about mounting that motor that I forgot is I always use carriage bolts. Carriage bolts have the flat head on them with the square part right underneath them. Let me show you. This square part right here. See, that square part will lock into the slots here, and you won't need a wrench on them when you're tightening it up or loosening it up. This one isn't tightened yet, you can see it. Because that square protrusion will stop this from turning. So you only need one wrench on the bottom, or impact. That's what I use. In any case, in 80 years, the guy that's going to replace the motor or whatever will thank you for doing that for him, and it's a couple of bucks. Okay, our first quick test run. Let's try her. Smooth, very little vibration, very little noise. This is just a piece of dimensional lumber, pine. When I'm pushing it, I'm not pushing it like this with my thumb here. If I get kicked back, my thumb gets broken, all right? I'm pushing it like this. That is smooth. That's new razor smooth there. Just to show you what I'm talking about here. I'll get you out of the tripod. Bring you down here. Turn this off. Look at those chips. Those blades are sharp, my friends. And I sharpen them. Even a clock that's broke is right twice a day, so there you go. Well, guys, that just about wraps this one up. Maybe not perfect, but good enough for government work, if you know what I'm saying. I had a lot of fun doing this one. I really love the old Delta machines. Hope you had just as much fun watching it. If you did, maybe like, maybe subscribe, maybe get the bell thingy. That helps me out, helps the channel out. helps me buy additional pieces of woodworking machinery to do a video on and maybe help you out. All that's left is a reveal. Thanks so much for joining me.